for yesterday's session. Very informative. We covered a lot of material, and it was fantastic to be introduced to all of the other participants with the current funding round. So just a brief comment of thanks for all of your organising and making everything work. So thank you from Western Australia. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. We appreciate it. If anyone else has compliments, you're welcome to say so. Okay, I think we will begin 3 minutes past. So today's session, as I explained yesterday, the first part of the session is reserved for a discussion. So we'll be dividing ourselves into groups based on our flagship theme. So when you submitted your proposal, you would have selected a theme. We'll remind you again what the themes are and briefly talk about the themes before we split off into the groups. So in each group, you'll hear from our leads for those teams. They'll talk about what the OED is doing. We develop resources, we make connections, we conduct research, and so on. So there's a lot of work going on under each theme. So you'll get to hear about that, and then we'll spend some time trying to help you figure out how you may use the work that we have done so far uh, for your project's implementation. We'll also go through some of the common, let's say, pitfalls we have seen in past projects, things that you can learn from previous projects, and of course there will be time for you to share with other projects what you have done so far, what you plan to do, so that you can learn from each other as well. So that's planned for the first hour, and then in the second hour, I'll take you through some background on evaluation and what's expected in terms of reporting. So to kick off, I will ask our flagship coordinators to give you very brief presentations on each of those themes, and then we'll divide you into groups. I think first person is Sam and Joy.
Okay, I guess I'll go. Let me just share my screen quickly. Yeah. Hello, everyone. I'm Sam, or Samyukta, but Sam for short. And I'm working with the Astrotourism flagship at the OAD. So this flagship falls under the theme of astronomy for socio-economic development. And what we're trying to do here is basically trying to harness the benefits of astrotourism, which are threefold. They're economic, social, and environmental, to try to improve people's lives. So if we look at astrotourism economically, it's a source of financial empowerment. And this is especially true for places with dark skies, which often tend to be quite rural, quite remote, and don't have much other economic development going on. From a social perspective, tourism and astrotourism have really strong potential to build connections between people from different socioeconomic backgrounds. So if you look at different sustainable tourism models that incorporate cultural tourism, like homestays and things like that, when you do tourism responsibly, it can really foster a sense of connection across people from unequal backgrounds. And from an environmental perspective, when you use dark skies as a resource, when you make people economically dependent on dark skies, you're incentivizing the protection of natural darkness, which in turn protects the environment through the protection of nocturnal habitats. So in the past, we funded a lot of projects at the OAD that have included astrotourism in some way. Your projects aren't here yet on this map, or maybe they are, I'm not sure. I've forgotten the exact number, but there have been quite a lot of funded projects, and astrotourism emerged as a theme out of our experience with funding these projects as an area that has strong potential to improve people's lives. So at the OAD, we're doing a lot of things to try and harness astronomy. So One thing we've done is compiled the lessons learned from our past projects. So we have a document living on our website, which I'll pop into the chat in a moment. And this document has insights into what has worked and what hasn't worked from past projects, which is a really useful resource for those of you who are incorporating astrotourism in some way to go through, to just learn from our experiences and our project experiences. Another thing we've done is created resources for different target groups. So we were primarily targeting two broad groups. One of them is rural community members, who are people who live in very dark areas, and also existing tourism businesses who are already involved in tourism activity, but to try to get them to diversify into nighttime tourism. These resources are also available on our website, and when we break out into the flagship groups, I'll go into them in a bit more detail, and if you can find a way to incorporate them, that would be amazing. The rest of our activities, we have a survey which hopefully you'll fill out at some stage of your project, because we're trying to plant the seeds for a global astrotourism community. And of course, we're presenting our work and trying to spread it as far as we can. I think it makes sense to stop now. I don't know if I should take questions now or.
Yeah, if anyone has questions already. Otherwise, you'll have time during the breakout rooms.
Yeah.
Thanks, Sam. Dom?
Okay, let me share screen. Okay. So you guys met me yesterday. I'm Dominic with the Astronomy for Mental Health project. Let's just see why it's not there. Okay. So we're looking at mental health just because it is such a global need. And if we look at the statistics, about 1 in 4 people face challenges, and 50% of all people will face some type of diagnosed medical mental health condition throughout their life. Now, when we talk about mental health, it's the state of well-being where someone can cope with the stresses that come up, they can be productive and fruitful, and they can contribute to their community. So it really goes from the personal into the family and relationships close by, back into society. So if all of those are actively working well, then the person is viewed as having good mental health. Now, the reason we brought astronomy into our targeting mental health is because astronomy just transcends borders. It doesn't care about borders, cultures, language, and it really has that potential to inspire awe. It allows people to be grounded in the present moment and really focus on something bigger than themselves. And the ideal for us is utilizing astronomy to create a space where people can have a moment to just become aware of where they're at, the challenges that they're facing, and also the resources that they have available or resources that they might require in order to move forward. Now, I'll skip over some of the parts because it's not all that important for you right now, but basically we want just a world where there's stigma around mental health, people are able to openly access mental health services, talk about it, and get all the assistance they need. And one of the things that we assume is that all the people that we work with at least have some interest in astronomy. Now, the way that we work is we partner with other individuals and universities to look at the research side. So initially, our work was based on anecdotal evidence from eco-psychology and environmental psychology, and really looking at the benefits of being in nature as a whole. And now we're actively trying to conduct research to see how the night sky and astronomy itself, how that can play a role and if it's more beneficial or not. So that's still studies that are ongoing. Based on all of this literature, we would then develop our resources and then we take it over into implementation. Now, what we've done last year is we had some podcasts of guided meditations from Mark. He's an astronomer that turned into a wellness expert, and his business is running retreats for people. We looked at astronomy ACT narratives. So ACT is the framework we use. It's acceptance and commitment therapy. if you guys have more questions, we can go into details of why we use that approach. We do have astronomy for mental health guidelines available. So these are guidelines for how you can incorporate mental health into activities that you are doing, or how you can consider mental health when designing activities. I will say from all the resources, the mental health guidelines are our oldest resource, so that would need to be updated. But we've got the mental health narratives that are easier to use and more directly applicable. And then a lot of the work we do is trying to see how can we now make it accessible. So we've been looking at how can we train others to run the type of sessions that we run. And we have a small training guide available on a single activity, and it has been tested and it is currently being updated. So my role would be in, when we're talking about your projects, is really to see if you're interested, how you can include some aspect of mental health within the work that you're doing, and then how do we manage that? Because something I didn't mention before is we very clearly don't offer mental health treatment. What we do offer is exactly that experience to allow people to reflect and grow, and they can become aware of, do they require treatment, and then we can refer them to others that are better suited to provide that treatment and handle that liability. Yeah, from my side, things that we'll be running this year is monthly workshops. So once those kick off, we will also send all of you links that you can register for those if you're interested. And other than that, you're always welcome to reach out with ideas or assistance on your projects. And like I mentioned, we have research that is ongoing, and any resource creation that could benefit you, we can always look at collaborating and creating resources tailored to your need. And I think that, yeah, should be fine for now. If there's any questions so far.
Hi, can I ask one question?
Yeah.
Hi, thanks, Dominic, for this nice presentation. So, I'm Tejpreet. I'm from Indian Institute of Technology in India, and this being one of the premium institutes in Northern India brings lots of pressure to students also. And there are like lots of young students who enroll in graduate program, and there are like around more than 6,000 students are on this campus. And it's unfortunately because of like extreme stress levels, sometimes students take, unfortunately, I can't emphasize enough on that part, like they sometimes take extreme steps like to end their lives also. So I was just thinking if we could like host some sessions for mental health on using astronomy, like or some workshops that you mentioned here in this institute, or if there's any possibility, how can we proceed for that?
No, definitely. So you're more than welcome to reach out, and we can see the specifics of your university and the exact way that would be best to reach the students, whether it is us supporting you to run something in person, something online, or how to go about that. But we can definitely do that. I see Ariana also has a hand up.
Hi, yes, I have a question in a similar way, because in our project there are a lot of children. Some are very young, like they age from 4 to 18. And sometimes, especially with the very young children, it's very hard to recognize and work with some kind of trauma or psychological stress that they might be living, also because they live in a very complicated environment. So I was wondering if there is something somehow tuned for kids, or it is something we could think of, because I think it's slightly different to relate with adults and children, both in the understanding of what's going on inside and how maybe we can use astronomy for this type of project. So I think that will be very useful for us.
Yeah, definitely. So with children, I'll answer before I see Kevin has a hand up, so I'll give a short answer. So with children, what we would look at is also not approaching it as a mental health intervention. We would approach it as an astronomy education activity, but then include a lot of activities where we can try and get them to, as a group, build some type of social connection so they feel more that they belong in the group. And you would do a lot of activities where they can have like exercises where they feel more grounded and become aware of their body and just get that sense of mastery. And that would at least equip them with a few more skills to face the challenges that they have. But with that group, we would also have to then look at within their area if there are any services that they could connect to, because they might, well, obviously they do, they require further interventions as well. So if there's another organization that specializes on that, it would be really good to see how we can involve them.
Thank you.
Pleasure. Kevin?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to emphasize what Dom just covered as well. Is about the services and the expertise in your local areas. One of the fundamental principles of the OED is that we do what we can to contribute. But a subject like mental health, when you're talking about, students taking their own lives and things like that, we don't have the expertise to handle those sort of things. We can contribute, whatever we can find in astronomy that might help. But I think it's really important to get the professionals, in the local community to team up with you when you're taking on these projects. And one of the examples is, one of our past projects in Nigeria. They were working in refugee camps, and it was refugee camps for internally displaced people. And there were kids that were traumatized from, all the violence and the things that they saw. And so, a group of astronomers are not equipped to deal with that. And so they teamed up with counselors and, childhood specialists. And so the astronomers did the astronomy part, but they had the expertise of the psychologists and counselors to help with the actual sort of mental health part. So it's just something to bear in mind, is that we're not trying to be the answer to everything, but we want to contribute. So if there's a way that we can contribute, we want to do it hand in hand with people who have the expertise in this area.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a key point.
Okay.
Hi.
Yeah.
Hi. Sorry.
Sorry. Yes.
I just wanted to add to what Kevin just said. Yeah, that's definitely true. But so there are all kind of services which are present, like I guess in most of the universities which face these issues. But still, somehow they are not helping their students are not able to get help from these services for some reason. But for example, here they very frequently do astronomy. There is an astronomy club, and they do stargazing sessions. And the turnout for those stargazing sessions is huge. Like more than 2,000 students show up for looking at the stars. So I just feel like the students already feel connection with the astronomy, and somehow if that might give them some feeling of connection with the cosmos. I don't know, you are expert in this field, so yeah, that might make some difference. I'm not sure how much it might help, but yeah, that was my motivation to ask this question. Thanks.
Yeah, no, that's perfect. Yeah, I think the main thing is, like Ken pointed out, it's we facilitate this experience, but we also want to do it responsibly. So whenever we know we're going to work with a population that needs more help, we also, from the very beginning, want to approach it with those people already and able to assist. Okay, then I think it's going to be Flagship 3 next. Thanks, everyone.
Yeah, Joy, you can go ahead.
Okay, thanks. I'm going to share my screen quickly as well. So geez, there's so many tabs right now. Okay, I think I'm almost there. Can you see my screen? Slideshow. Okay, hi everyone, I'm Joyful. We met yesterday. So basically, Samyukta and Dominic have spoken on the first and the second theme that we have at the OED. I'm sure when you're going through your application, you had to choose. So in total, we have 5. I'll be speaking on theme 3, which is knowledge and skills development. So the other 2 themes, they are still relevant. It's just that we don't have any active projects that we're focusing on at this OED specifically, especially because with addressing inequality, there's just so many things that can go into it that we can't just narrow it down to just one specific thing. And then as well as the technology from astronomy one. But anyways, so with the third theme, the one that looks at astronomy, knowledge and skills development, that focuses on a bit of capacity building workshops and hackathons. So next slide. Okay. So the aim of this theme is to basically make use of astronomy knowledge and skills used in astronomy, such as programming, data handling, data analysis, and machine learning, as well as its infrastructure, such as the cloud computing platforms to advance development objectives through either the teaching or application of the skills. So the current active flagship project we have is called Hack for Dev, which is Hackathons for Development. So the mission of this project is to basically establish a mechanism that boosts developmental impact and data analytics. And this is achieved through hosting worldwide micro programs designed to hack the learning of skills quickly, while we empower the public to organize their own events using our resources and other established programs. So currently at Hack for Dev, we have these ongoing regional hackathons that started this month, yes, in February. And basically what happened in this program is that we trained trainers from different parts of the world. And what we said that is that after they've been trained, they should go host regional hackathons in their respective regions. And this is basically a way of expanding the growth of how fast these trainings or these skills are being shared all over the world. And then we also have resources that are available for people who want to organize their own hackathons. Okay, there we go. For people who also want to organize their own hackathons, we have guidelines, and we also have resources for people to do that themselves. But also because with skills, it goes beyond just hackathons. There's also, oh, okay, I think my screen is stuck because it's not going to the next slide. Okay. We also have other projects. So we've also had projects that were funded that look at hosting workshops that not necessarily have to do with programming or anything like that, but then still skills within the astronomy field that are used to basically address those development issues. So this is a very broad project, theme, because over the years, we've basically funded over 150 projects that focus on skills development or capacity building of some sort. And I'm looking forward to basically chatting with you guys about what could fall under this theme and also just the flagship itself. Thank you.
Thanks, Joy. So I hope you got a sense of the work that we're doing under these 3 themes. So just to clarify that we have all of you as our projects running activities across the world. In addition, our team here at the OED office, we try to do the background research and develop resources so that we can enable you to create impact more effectively. So I just listed the 3 themes in the chat, and now let me try and create the breakout rooms. I will let you choose your own breakout room. So if you know exactly which theme that your project fits under, you can join the room. If you are not sure, you can ask us for guidance. You are also welcome to jump from room to room over the course of the next 30 to 45 minutes. Some of your projects might fit under multiple flagships. So yeah, you are welcome to jump from room to room, or if you have multiple people from your project in the session, each of you can join different breakout rooms. Let me see. Okay.
Nope.
Thanks, everyone. Oh, there you go. I hope that was useful to have a bit of discussion and share what you're doing. So the final part of the onboarding session will be about evaluations and reporting. So, like I've said multiple times since yesterday, we realized that our grants are quite small, and we don't expect you to carry out, a professional evaluation of your projects. But having said that, it is important that you collect data, measure some sort of data to understand the effect of your project on your target audience. As far as the IAU and the OED is concerned, this in fact will be our most important return expected from all of you. So I'll explain what are the formal requirements and also briefly talk to you about sort of give you an introduction to evaluation. So I know that some of you work with other organizations. Some of you are part of bigger organizations than the OED and the IAU. Am I sharing the right screen?
Is it supposed to say Astro for Dev, SDGs, and Impact?
Yeah. You see my slides?
Yeah, you just need to switch displays because we now see it.
Okay, that's what I thought.
That's right.
Is it fine?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so I was saying I know that some of you are part of organizations that are bigger than the OED and the IAU, and that you have your own evaluation frameworks. So I welcome you to contribute at the end of the presentation about how you do your evaluations. But for those of you who don't have a lot of other external funding or expertise to carry out these detailed evaluations, I hope that you're able to follow some of the guidelines that I'll present now. So you've seen this, you've seen that. So we always say astronomy for development is about the people and the planet. It's not about stars. Right. So we talk about impact, we talk about outcomes. In the next slide, I'll explain what are the different what the different terms mean. But just to note that we are talking about what kind of change that your activities, that your project will create in the target audience. We are not necessarily too interested in how you bring about the change, although that is important, especially in astronomy, which has a long history of outreach, which has a long history with education. There tends to be a bit of a confusion between the deliverables, the method of your project, your actual activity, versus the outcomes. So I'll explain what I mean. For example, in a lot of astronomy outreach, you will hear about people buying telescopes to go visit schools and run stargazing sessions, which is absolutely fine. But usually the focus tends to be on the telescope, that people are looking to raise money to buy a telescope. They're looking for support to buy equipment. So a lot of effort goes into the actual inputs of the project, as you'll see here in this little table. So these are the resources that you need in order to create the ultimate change in the target audience. So the inputs are still important, but we are not necessarily too interested in whether you use a telescope, whether you use some other means. What we are most interested in is what kind of change in the students will be created because of your telescope session, because of your stargazing, because of your astronomy lectures, or whatever activity that you do. So activities are important, but we are more interested in the outcomes. So just to run through the different terms here, the inputs, as I said, these are the resources that you need to carry out your activities, which includes the equipment, the people, the money, partners, and so on. Activities is what you will do. So we've talked a lot about activities today. Outputs will be the immediate deliverables of the project. So I think in the application process, we call them as deliverables, which would be things that you create in order to run the project, such as handout materials, presentations. It also includes the number of people in the target audience that you reach. Again, quite important to capture this, but we are more interested in number 4, which is outcomes. So because of your activities, what changes have you brought about in the target audience? Have they now gotten more interested in STEM? Have they changed their attitude towards science? Have there been reduced dropouts because of your intervention? Of course, that needs a longer time frame to measure that outcome. So these are the values that we are most interested in, and that's why we ask you to complete the project plan, which includes a section on outcomes. That for us is the most interesting and most valuable part of the plan, because we trust you to run the project. But I think the most difficult part is to capture this data and figure out what effect your project had on the target audience, and to do that without specific budget for evaluation is difficult, but it is possible. So what our previous projects have done is they've done pre and post tests. For example, you'll do a questionnaire. You'll give your target audience a questionnaire before the start of your project, get a baseline, and then at the end of the project, you'll give them a questionnaire to measure what effect, if any, that your project had. So we request that all of your projects at a minimum collect this sort of pre and post project data that gives us a sense of the effect of your project. So there's another term here, number 5, which is impact. And sometimes I use impact and outcomes interchangeably, but impact has to do with what part of the effect on the target audience is attributable to your actions. For example, you go to a school, you go to a university, you work with them over 6 months' time, you run some activities, and at the end of your project, you measure some sort of change in their knowledge of science or attitude towards science, and you see a very significant effect. But because we live in the real world, there's other factors that will also that could have also had an effect on their attitudes or their knowledge level. So at the same time that you run your project, maybe a new professor or new teacher joined the school who turned out to be quite effective, in teaching science. So maybe most of the gains that you notice were attributable to this teacher and not much to your own project. So we won't really get into impact measurement, because again, that needs more resources than we have made available to you. But we will ask you to measure the outcomes of your project. So maybe let me stop there and ask for any questions before I move on. Let's see if we can see this.
Is there a specific format in which we have to document it, or is it okay in any way? If there is a specific, format in sense means in the document format, is it there?
Do you mean the outcomes for your project, or are you talking about the
measuring outcome part?
Measuring outcomes. So we don't have a format for it, but yeah, you're free to follow your own format. But we may ask you to share the data with us at the end of the project. So make sure that other people are able to read the format. Yeah.
Since we are doing the baseline surveys and the surveys like on a quarterly basis, so is it, I mean, is it okay if we do it online, offline? Is there any kind of a way
Yeah,
in
no,
which we
that's
have to collect the data, or is it okay however we do it, but we submit it in a document?
yes, that's exactly right. Yeah, you can do it whichever is the best for your project, but at the end of the project, we may ask for the data. Yeah.
Okay. And what about the photographs or like any other like video kind of situations or anything regarding that?
Yeah, so for photos and videos and other media, especially uh, photos where there are kids, we ask that you get permission from the audience before you share with us, because whatever you share with us will be deemed to be publicly shareable. So if you share videos with us, we will share it with the IAU, and there is a very good chance that it will be posted publicly at some point somewhere online. So if you don't want something to be shared, yeah, just don't send it to us.
Okay. I mean, should it be part of the outcome report that we are submitting?
I'll
Is
talk
there
more
any
about that
mandate
in a
that?
few minutes.
Okay, sure.
Yeah. Okay, so yeah, this is more about the outcomes. I think Kevin sort of touched on this earlier when we were talking about astronomy for mental health. So one of our principles is to be aware of unintended consequences. Easier said than done, but just to be aware that it is possible that your activity might result in consequences uh, that were not intended, might be harmful, might be positive. So this is about outcomes. I believe most of you have sent me your project plan, which includes outcomes. If not, this is a possible template that you can use. Now I'll move on to the reporting very quickly, unless there are any other questions about the. I'm just looking through the. Okay, if there are no questions, I'll move on to the.
Hi, Ram. Sorry, I do have one question. So, when you the document that you mentioned, like kind of like questionnaire kind of a thing that we should give pre and post the sessions to collect from the student. So, do you have some like sample set of questions, or like it should be objective, subjective? Like, do you have any suggestions regarding that?
Yeah, I can share some examples from previous projects, but again, it's very context specific, project specific. Mm, so it's really up to you. So it should be based on the outcomes that you want to get out of the project. If you want to measure knowledge, and I think then the questionnaire should be a measure of what the students have learned. If you want to measure other things, I mean, you can measure multiple things through the questionnaire. So I can share some examples.
Great, thanks.
Okay, let me minimize this. Okay, so related to the evaluations is reporting and comms. So the first thing is we support a lot of projects all across the world, and you have your daily job. You're probably doing this as a volunteer. So we try not to burden you with a lot of bureaucratic requirements. But the more that you share with us, the more regularly or frequently that you share emails with me, the easier it is for us to publicize your work, publicize your project and your institution, of course. So the OED, the other IAU offices, the IAU itself, has a lot of communication channels. In fact, it feels like it's too many communication channels at this point. But we have seen that it's quite effective when we share our updates on our mailing list, social media, the various newsletters from all of the IAU offices and other organizations with our partners and so on. So do keep me updated on what's happening. You don't have to submit like formal reports every 2 weeks. You can just send me like 2 lines letting me know what's happening. For example, someone was saying earlier that they have a soft launch of a project. So if something like that is happening and you think it's worth the OED or the IAU sharing it online, just send me a very short email, and we'll be glad to publicize your work. Of course, on social media, we can tag you. You must just let me know your channels, and then we can easily tag you. Joyful?
No, I was gonna say that it'll be easier if they tag us as well, so we can also
Okay.
share.
Yeah, I think I sent you a document at the end of December that has a list of all our social media channels. Or if you can't find it, if you need to know our channels, just send me an email. And similarly, if you have any other problems, if you need assistance with anything at all, please let me know. So this is some of our comms. At the moment, we have a quarterly newsletter that Joyful is producing. We also publish an annual report. We used to have one website. I think we have like 15 now. I lost track. And we have lots of social media. We are even on TikTok. We only started posting recently, and we are finding it quite difficult to make videos for TikTok. But if you are on TikTok, let us know. We'll be glad to repost if that's a thing on TikTok. And we do reach out to, we share all this news with lots of people all around the world. I think we have like 3,000 people or more on our mailing list. And sometimes we send our updates to the IAU, which shares with which shares it with the entire astronomy membership, which is 13,000 members around the world. And of course, all our partners have their own newsletters and social media. So there's quite a bit of publicity and exposure that can be gained through the OED and IAU channels. The reporting requirements. So some of this may not be applicable. No, I think it's fine. So we asked for two main reports. The one is the mid-year report in June, July, and the one is the final report in March, April. So just look at the top half of the slide. This is what is relevant to you. This is for multi-year projects, which we no longer fund. So this is not relevant. So just this. We have templates for the mid-year report and final report, but the actual reports will need to be filled online. I will send you, I can send you a link so you can see what sort of information we ask for in the reports. And we will have a online presentation early next year. So it'll be February 2026, where each of you will have a few minutes to present the activities that you have done, the outcomes that you have achieved. So we'll send more information about that early next year, but this is just for you to know that there is a presentation that is required as part of the reporting requirements. So it's the mid-year report, the final report, and a very short presentation that you'll deliver early next year. Other than that, I've listed virtual meetings, but it's not always necessary. So I try and meet with each project at least once in the year, sometimes twice a year. But it really depends on your availability, your need, and so on. So if there is something that you want to chat about, I'm always available. Any questions about reporting?
Hi, I do have one question. Sorry, can I ask?
Yeah.
So regarding this reporting, so the final presentation would be in February next year. So what is the last day or like the date till which like we have to finish our project in terms of
Yeah.
like using all the resources, whatever we have purchased and everything?
Yeah, that's a good question. So the official grant period is January 2025 to December 2025. That's what is written in your grant agreements. But because it takes time for us to send you the money, I think most of you have not yet received the money. We are very flexible on when the project needs to end. We actually don't have a fixed deadline. Let's say you only start the project in May of 2025, then we can give you time until May 2026 to complete the project. So approximately 24 months. In some cases, if the project needs additional time for whatever reason, all you have to do is send us an email and let us know that you need 3 more months or 4 more months for whatever reason. We will just quickly run it by our committee, and if everyone is satisfied, then we'll give you a extension to complete the project. Was there another
Thanks.
question?
Yes, I have a question. So at the final report, this is related to the budget. Will you need to say receipts how the money was used, and how will we provide this if they are in a different plan?
Yeah, that's a good question too. So for the finance report, it will be part of the same report, but there will be a section on finance. We'll ask you for how much money you received, how much money you spent, and then ask you to attach an Excel sheet with a breakdown of all the expenses. Attach the corresponding receipts. So you can just take photos of the receipts as you incur any expenses. And then at the end of the year, when you present the final report, you simply attach the receipts, PDFs or images or similar format. And in case of any expenses that you cannot get a receipt for, I'm trying to think of an example. So if you cannot get a receipt for some expense, you can just attach a letter saying you incurred this much money for this expense, and you as a project leader can sign off on that.
And if they are in a different language, do we have to describe or translate them? What do you want from me in that case?
Yeah, you don't need to translate the individual receipts, but in the Excel sheet you can add a brief description of what it is, so we can match the Excel with the receipts. Any other questions?
Ram, I do have one more question, but that's not related to reporting. So if anyone else wants to ask regarding reporting, I would go next, something like that. If no one has any question, I can.
I have one question about this report, the mid-year and final report. There are specific formats that we have to fill out online, right?
Yeah, it's an online form. You will just need to fill it. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Can I ask me?
Yeah.
So yeah, what I want to ask is like, so for example, right now we are the entire team of project there. We are spending most time to develop the resources, like what kind of materials we will use and what would be the best models, concepts that we should discuss in the workshops that we are going to do for the school kids. So is there any kind of platform where we could find the resources which have been used, or do you have some compilation, or can we have some help in the designing part from OAD side or from other wing of IAU probably?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, you can send me an email. So you would have heard from yesterday's presentation by the Office of Astronomy for Education that they have a whole bunch of educational resources. So they are in the business of developing educational resources in astronomy targeted at school level kids. So they probably could help out. We also have resources created by our past projects, which are available online. I can share a link with you. The only thing is there's too many resources, so you will have to spend time trying to search through them. If not, we can always try and find out who else can support you. Yeah.
Sure,
You can
I'll
just
write to you. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah. Any other questions? Yeah, I think. Oh, okay. Yeah. So this is just a summary of what our reports ask for. So I will send you a PDF so you don't have to take notes. But they ask for things like what did you do, who did you reach, but more details, the final report will ask for more details than the mid-year report. So for instance, if the mid-year report asks for how many people you reached, in the final report we'll ask for, okay, how many of them were male, how many female, how many kids, how many adults, and so on. Deliverables, outcomes, what were the sustainable development goals impacted, evaluation that I spoke about, what surveys you did, what were the results, challenges, the finance report, any resources that you develop for the project. We ask that you share it with us so that we can share it further with the astronomer community. Photos and videos, resources is listed twice. Yeah, but this is a high level view of what we asked for in the report. Right. We have come to the end of the onboarding sessions. Oh, I didn't see the chat. Any questions? Oh, as Joyful pointed out, the 2024 projects will be making the final presentations this Friday. So there's a link in the chat. You can find the Zoom link there if you're interested in what people have done in past years. If there's no other questions, then we can close. Thanks again, everyone. Please remember that we're always here to support you. As I was telling someone earlier, our job is to enable you to create impact. So you can use us. Feel free to email me anytime. And I hope to chat with you or speak to you. Chat with you over email or Zoom at some point.